Hello people! This video is not my usual type of content of CEO survival eds, but something a bit different. You see, I love writing stories and drawing of OCs that I create. I'm sure many of you are familiar with these concepts. Maybe sometimes I will make similar videos where I just talk about some random fun lore I came up with for new creatures that I had made and played with to make things more interesting. Today I'll talk about my clownfish mutated emphines and the world she lives in. It was made clear that she is an irresponsible parent, not to overuse the word or anything, but she is. Funny behind the scenes info is that when I decided to randomly just draw her as a human, I ended up making her look incredibly confident, mature, and intelligent. I mean, that determined face screams, "I know what I'm doing," which would not suit her character at all. That's when I decided to make lore for her. Why does she give that face in the pic, and where does her irresponsibility with kids come from? Now this might sound weird and cringy, but just listen. Once upon a time, there was an emphines out there around a century ago. She had lived with her parents in the tundra biome and had one younger sibling. Since she was little, it became clear that she had a fascination with parenting. She always wanted to babysit her little brother and fantasized about being a mother. Unfortunately for her, it soon became clear that she sucked at it, and sucked at life in general. She was forgetful, clumsy, silly, and was almost never able to do as people asked her. Her parents pretty much gave up on her, even though she was the elder sister, and turned most of their attention to her little brother, who grew up to be an average emphines. Their parents died when their kids turned adult. This emphines was called Olive. Olive and her brother parted ways when their parents passed away. She was determined to prove the world and her dead parents wrong by raising a nice, tidy family of her own and live happily ever after. Unfortunately, her clumsy nature and goofy behavior got her into trouble after she tried to be nice and cheer up an upset baby Corathos, to which the creature cried even more, and as punishment, Mama Cora murdered Olive to bring peace to her child's heart. That's where the story of Olive ends. But one story's end always starts with a new one's beginning. Around a century has passed, numerous generations of emphineses and all kinds of creatures have come and gone. On a spring morning, a set of emphines babies hatch from their eggs and start life. One of these critters eventually grew up to be a strong lady, fierce and independent. Her name is Hiya. She mutated and got clownfish mutation when she turned adult. Her family celebrated, and when their parents passed away, they parted ways. Hiya chose the path of hunter-gatherer, alone, near tundra and redwoods. She had a cozy cave for a home in mountains and lived there peacefully. Before you ask, yes, Olive's story did end with her getting killed by a Cora, but her soul rose and she turned into a ghost. For some reason, 98 years after her death. She was confused, completely baffled. She had her world turned upside down with this rebirth that she could not understand the whys of. She was a ghost. People could see her. She was completely capable. People could hear her. She remembered very few of her life in the past, but one thing remained, the desire to be a mother. She thought finally she had another chance. Maybe the wardens had seen potential in her and given her another life. Filled with determination, she set off to the tundra to raise a family like her own used to be. But the nesting did not work. She was not capable of laying eggs. It simply wasn't possible for ghosts to just reproduce. You can't be born from a dead parent, can you? Technically you can, medically, but this is scenario. These are animals, somewhat. Saddened and crushed, she left Tundra to go and wander around Sonaria for the rest of, not her life, but more so her ghost being. Seeing that she can't fulfill her dreams, she started to question why she even came back as a ghost. What did the wardens want from her? One time, she was at Oasis. She came across a baby Takamorath. Memories flushed over her as she remembered how she always used to try and cheer up infant creatures to prove that she can be a good parent. Somehow, she never learned that most of her tricks and attempts always failed. But even as she wanted to put a smile on the Taka's face, it just got scared of the half-invisible tundra wolf it saw. After she explained that no need to be afraid, she just happens to be a ghost, the Taka asked her name. ... She had no idea. Like, actually, memory of her birth completely wiped. She stuttered and boasted a random name that she could think of, Zala. After the incident, she went by that name. On some level, it bugged her that she did not remember what they called her. She was wandering in redwoods on a chilly autumn afternoon. Hearing footsteps, she quickly hid behind a tree in case it meant danger. She wasn't completely stupid, just a bit silly. She valued her life even if most people said it was pointless for her to even live. It hurt her a bit. It was of course Hiya. She was gathering berries in a basket she would use as decoration for her home. She was meaning to hunt down a few bioluminescent blooded creatures to paint the berries and make them into fancy decoration in her cave in mountains. Zala watched quietly from behind the bark of the tree she stood against. She sniffed the berries and covered her nose in disgust. She thought this emphinus was meaning to live an omnivore life, which she wasn't sure how to feel about. When Anya was done collecting her berries, her basket full, she walked towards the tree Zala was hiding behind. Frightened, Zala decided to play it cool, as she would have certainly been caught. She jumped out from behind the tree to not only jump scare Anya, but also herself. She stood in front of a tall, strong woman that got her rather baffled. She started a form of, "Hi, I'm Zala, and I was wondering if you could nest emphinuses that I would raise," she said somewhat shyly. Anya, who had dropped her basket from which the berries spilled out, looked at her first with surprise, then shock, then squinted her eyes and simply replied, "No." She picked up her basket with annoyance, looked at how only quarter of what she had gathered remained, then went around Zala and started walking away. Zala stood staring at her quietly, but her determination to convince Anya this was a good idea did not falter. In fact, she pretty much invited herself into Anya's home often, and told herself that she lived nearby anyway. Truth is, she just simply chose a little cave in mountains to call her home, to have an excuse to be near Anya and often visit her to yap about her plans and desires. She shared every tidbit of her life with Anya just to maybe get on her good side despite the troubled first meeting, and get her to nest some babies that she could experiment on. Anya was deeply against the idea. She never wanted children, never wanted to raise kids, never wanted to have company really. She always told Zala that just as her dream is to be a mom with a big family, she herself had dreams of her own to be alone and in peace. Their concept of the perfect life were completely opposite, which stirred them both some trouble. After all, Zala did not have anything to lose being a ghost and just wanted some babies to raise, but Anya still had her whole life in front of her and wanted to make the most of it. Some days, when Anya would announce that she's going out to hunt or has some sort of program for the day, Zala would also leave mountains to go and find company. She still believed her idea with Anya will work, she just needed more and more convincing. One day, she had gotten into trouble with a few hungry arsonists. As she was running away from them, she threw herself to the side to confuse them, only to have one of them launch themselves at her, to which she suddenly, out of fear, somehow possessed the fire creature. Her body as a ghost was not there, and she had full control over the arsonists. The fire creature's pack members looked at it confused, asking where did the emphinus go, and Zala, trying to play cool, just muttered something like, "I killed it." The other arsonists were questioning where the dead creature was, to which Zala got herself out of the possessed arsonist and made a run for it. The fire beasts could not keep up. That day she discovered her ability to possess creatures. She figured it pretty much made up for the fact that she couldn't nest creatures. And then it hit her. What if she would possess Anya? To be continued? I don't know. Did you guys like this little story time? Let me know down below. And should I make more like this with different stories each time? I can't promise these would be in the same scenario universe, but I am considering the idea a bit if you guys liked this video. See you all soon!